Welcome to the Copilot Connection.
We're here to share with you all the news, insights and capabilities of the Microsoft Copilot ecosystem from across the entire Microsoft stack. I'm Zoe Wilson and I'm a Teams and Copilot MVP, a regional director, a Viva Explorer, and I work at Avanade in our global modern work business.
And I'm Kevin McDonald. I'm an MVP, Viva Explorer and Copilot Strategy and Modern Workplace AI lead at Avanade. Now, we'll be releasing episodes as podcasts and on YouTube with insights from experts from the community and Microsoft on what the different areas of Copilot are, the impact they can make to you and your organization, and what you need to do to prepare for them or start implementing now, and even how you can extend them.
So this week we're catching up immediately ahead of Ignite. Actually, I'm sitting in a hotel room in Chicago. It's like 7:15 in the morning.
And we should apologise because I know Moraine will say something around the sound. We've had some fun and games with that.
Yeah, so sorry if anyone's listening and my mic quality isn't the best, but let's just say I've had a fun couple of days trying to get all of the tech that I brought actually working. So we're catching up ahead of Ignite. We're going to try not to share any NDA news, but there's lots of exciting things we can share with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think before we get onto that, and you touched on it slightly there, we should talk about some of the new ways that we're sharing and things as well, which is Blue Sky. So it is the new trendy place to be, I'm told, and somehow we're on there as well. So if you have made that hop over from X, whether it's permanent or just exploring other ones, do go and follow us at copilotconnection.com on Blue Sky. We're trying to share things there. It's been quite nice. I noticed this last night. We've been included in a starter pack for artificial intelligence in the workplace, which is lovely to see. For those who haven't seen the starter packs, it's a way to kind of get a load of people to follow all in one place, which is very nice on there. And I'm also working on something, apparently you can create custom feeds. So I'm looking to create a Copilot Connection feed for all those who are interested in that. So give us a follow and give us a shout on there.
What's your experience so far, Kevin, of Blue Sky? Obviously, I'm asking this as someone who's using it and has my own opinion, but what's your opinion so far?
I'm absolutely loving it. It feels like the old Twitter, and I love the fact I post and I'm getting all sorts of people that I know, but also people I don't know, and they're applying nice things and not just being rude on there. And it feels like engagement. I've been posting things on different areas. Across Twitter, LinkedIn, as well as Blue Sky. And I'm enjoying the chat on Blue Sky most at the moment. And I would say that only over the last week to 2 weeks, when there's been this sudden explosion, everyone's very active in there. So I hope it continues to carry on like that. I know it's not all been. It was interesting. I'm going to call him out and hope I don't get him in trouble. But Leon Armston, when he went on there and I think he mentioned Twitter and he put an AI picture, and I know a load of people roasting him for it. It was like, whoa, okay, there are still some trolls here, it seems, but generally I haven't seen it at all. I think it's been really, really engaging, really nice place to be. So having fun with it.
And you know what's just it's really nice when you open the app and the content that you see is from people that you follow and things that you're interested in, instead of stuff that's just not even at all relevant to you and has a political slant and is for a completely different part of the world. That's really refreshing.
Yeah, I agree. And with Twitter, I always used to use the following feed within there, but still wouldn't get things. And I'd know people were posting things and they wouldn't show up. Whereas now I'm seeing them. It's like, oh, I haven't heard from them. This is nice. So it's a really engaging. I will still keep my Twitter account. I'm not planning to get rid of it, but Blue Sky is becoming the place that I go to first, definitely.
Okay, so other exciting things that we've got to share. I know that it was about a month ago now, wasn't it, Kevin? We had a lot of fun at Scottish Summits, and in particular taking part in Donna Sarker's closing keynote.
That's right, yeah. And yeah, that was an interesting experience. Not entirely what I was expecting, but we got to act out a Copilot prompt, didn't we? And all got involved in various degrees. Some of us more molested. I mean, involved than others. Hello, Anna Innes, if you're listening, and Chris Huntingford. I'm looking forward to you molesting me at ESPC for this one. For those who haven't seen it, I should probably justify that on there. Basically, Chris was responsible AI, so he was checking everyone and making sure for any dodgy materials coming through after each of the steps within there. So if you're coming to ESPC, come along to Donna's keynote. She will be replicating it there as well. And if not, we've got the link to the video that we have from two different angles, proper professional photography ish on that one. But it's great to watch, and it's been nice sharing at work. I was had to miss a call the other day, but I was following the chat, and someone I don't know actually shared the video, which was really entertaining. Someone I hadn't passed it on to was like, "Oh my gosh, it's getting further."
Yeah, I mean, I know Donna said that some of her colleagues in the product group were really interested in seeing this as well. And I know it sounds a little bit cheesy, but actually it was a really good way of explaining all of the different steps and all of the things that happen when an end user submits a prompt into that Copilot ecosystem of services and things that are running. So if you want to understand how it works, like Kevin said, either go catch it in person if you're at ESPC, because that always just makes it more engaging, I think. But it is on YouTube from Scottish Summit as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And while you're there, go and give my session with Simon Owen a watch, which is up there too. It's a brief interlude when the battery rang out, but well worth a watch on there too. And I think we've also got another event coming up, haven't we? Next week, which is slightly scary.
Yes. So some of you might be familiar with the Teams Fireside Chat, which has been running for quite some time now. It's run by Tom Arbuthnot and the folks over at Empowering Cloud, and this is a live interactive session specific to Teams, and we've been asked to host a new version of that, which is the Copilot Fireside Chat. And the very first session will be taking place next Wednesday. So after Ignite, at a point when we can talk about all of the exciting news and announcements coming out of this week and what that actually means.
Yes. I was just chuckling. Yes, at that fact that we can speak freely there, hopefully as well. And I think I was chuckling too much about that. And sorry if you said this already, but that is live, so it won't be recorded. You'll need to join live to come and join in, which means we can be sort of frank and honest on there without getting into trouble later, and answer your questions as truthfully as possible without breaching our NDA before anyone from Microsoft's listening and commenting on that as well. So yeah, do sign up for that one. It'll be a lot of fun. Right. So Zoe, you're over in Chicago and you're about to go to Ignite. So we've got to try and pull together news when, in theory, there's not much news. But I think it's been interesting. There's definitely been that, I wouldn't say leaks, but we're starting to see kind of announcements come out that are kind of nudging towards the sort of thing that's coming on there, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think from the marketing moment that Microsoft had in September, I think it's very clear. You know, we've had Copilot. Every product group has a Copilot. If you ask someone a question
one
about Copilot, yeah, you get a different answer depending on which person in Microsoft or which technology area a person works with you ask. The same's about to happen for agents, I think. So, you know, suddenly everything's going to be called an agent. We're going to have lots of different types of agents. Products are going to have different agents. And I was at the AvePoint partner event yesterday, and
nice.
Donna described it in a really interesting way, actually, which is, you know, if you think about Copilot like a mobile phone, then an agent is the app that's on the phone.
Yeah, I think that works quite nicely. But I think, and especially I'd say where it goes further than that even, because, and you can kind of do this with apps, but those agents can talk to each other as well and connect with each other from there. And I think there's going to be different ways of engaging with those agents as well. And I suppose, again, a bit like phones, some things will run in the background and process stuff when you're not necessarily actively using it. Some will kind of talk and trigger on specific events. So you get notifications coming through in other bits. So, yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's absolutely true.
Yeah, and if you think about all of the apps that are out there, you'll only use the ones that are relevant to you in the same way that we do today with
Mm.
apps on a smartphone. But one of the really interesting considerations is, how do IT departments essentially manage and govern these? Because
Hmm.
suddenly, if you think about this new app that essentially could function as like an intern or like how do you govern what data it can have access to and where can it send that data? Will you allow? Are there certain types of data that you're not going to let it go anywhere near? Where can it process it? What can it hand it off to?
Mm.
What does that mean? What level of autonomy will you actually give it, depending on the data source? And I think there's this whole governance layer that we don't even
So
understand yet.
I've got to cut you off because I'm chuckling too much. I can tell you've had a lovely partner day with AvePoint there.
No, this wasn't AvePoint. This was Donna.
Okay.
I mean, this stuff's too new
It is true.
for some. This stuff is too new. I mean, if you think about it, we know that agents are the hot topic. I'm
Mm.
expecting lots of agent announcements this week,
Yeah.
and even though AvePoint have a close relationship with Microsoft, the levels of governance, because governance isn't only tooling, is it? It's the processes and the people and the levels of risk within an organization and the types of data that they're processing. So we kind of
Yeah,
need
it's
these
true.
agents to get into the wild a little bit for us to be able to understand um, what some of these scenarios might be and what appropriate behavior is going to be for these agents.
Yeah. No, it's a very good point, much as I mock you. And I should say I do like the AvePoint tools and the people there as well. I'm not mocking them, but I can see that's front of mind. And I think, to be honest, it's good to hear that because I think, as you say, we will see these agents come out in the wild. And we've seen time and time again that Microsoft puts stuff out and then governance comes on a little bit later and they'll do a bit and other people will do a bit, which is good in there. So it'd be interesting when you come back from Ignite, it'd be interesting to talk about what the partner's talking about and what's happening on the floor. Are we seeing the reality of being able to manage these things being a little bit better? Are the partners and ISVs filling that gap at all on there?
Yeah, my expectation is they won't be there yet. I don't think anybody
No.
will be there yet in terms of an answer with this stuff. But there will be. I'm assuming that some of the ISVs will work on this over the next year or two, and the partners will fill in the gap with services.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to jump around slightly from the notes, I think, because I think the chat we had there was a bit more interesting than some of the things. But you can see, why do we think agents are coming out? Microsoft's already announced NASA's new Earth agent, so giving access to that data within there, powered through Microsoft Azure, being able to surface those ones. I think this is very much a kind of standalone agent in that sense. We're not talking about this being embedded within Copilot. And in fact, I don't even think you see the word Copilot there, which is always intriguing. I have noticed the word Copilot starting to drift away from being in every single sentence, apart from the word Earth Copilot at the top. So we're seeing that agent start to come through. And the other one I noticed, I think it was Leslie who picked this up, that on the Viva community call next week, that they've actually said they're going to have a run through of the employee self-service agent from Microsoft 365 Copilot. That's the only information we have so far on there, but that sounds like another agent that will get announced at Ignite, and hopefully there will be a few sessions that will cover a little bit of that. So intriguing to see that. But what I wanted to jump ahead a little bit was this post that Abram Jackson shared. So Abram's the PM for extensibility of Copilot. Copilot 4 M365. Abram, if you're listening, you do need to update your title slightly there. And he shared this post from Kwame Nyaning, who works at EY's, I think it's Soren or Seren, which I believe is the design side. And he's put this lovely post on these big PDFs. What can you make that bigger? And talking about where Gen AI is. We will come to this trough of enlightenment. For those who can't see on the screen, we're showing a version of the Gartner hype cycle there, and saying we're moving towards a plateau of productivity for agents. But the slide I particularly liked here, and I think this kind of fits with some of what you're saying in terms of the agentic scope. So when you're building agents, what is it that you consider that they should do? And I love this. It talks about the scope of work. So what are the tasks they're actually going to be undertaking on there? What generative capabilities are you talking about using with those? The amount of automation that they take on within that, the types of agent. And by that means, is it going to be predictive, Gen AI, or a combination of both? The amount of human interaction, so how much direct user input is required for it to function? Will it be fully autonomous? Will it need people to kind of get involved at certain points? Will they review? Will they need to take action within there? And then, slightly depressingly, at the end there, the technical feasibility, because I think we're definitely at this stage where there's a lot of conversations around agents, and is it truly capable of being able to do what it is that people want to do? And I love this kind of description of that when you're kind of thinking about and scoping out some ideas you have, taking these categories and almost planning ahead a little for those would be really powerful.
Yeah, I love this document. We'll make the link available. I'd highly recommend that people spend some time reading it, because I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really well thought out. And, listening to you talk there, Kevin, it almost sounds like we need a job description for an agent, like an actual job spec.
Would it need a CV as well? They could talk about having like 10 years of Copilot experience as it hallucinates.
Yeah, I'm not sure we quite need a CV, but I think having that definition of what it is and what it does and what it does not, and the boundaries and things like that is going to become important.
And I love that last word you used there, the boundaries. Where does it stop? Where do you ensure that it doesn't do things as well? I think, as well as describing what it does, describing what it shouldn't get involved in as well. I admit, having 3 boys, the second you tell them what they shouldn't do, that to me is a menu of what they should be looking at doing, because that means it's trouble. But yeah, maybe that's something we can explore a bit further in a future episode. I like that. You've taken me off thinking about other things now. So yeah, I'm not going to keep going on agents too much, because I think we will be talking about that post-Ignite an awful lot as well. So I wanted to pick up on a couple of interesting, another one of these announcements that's come out pre-Ignite from here as well. And this was around the adapted AI models from there. And these are kind of intriguing, because generally, that when Microsoft's been talking, Azure OpenAI's been talking, a lot of it's been around, here is your model. You will make use of this model, but nothing will be used to train it within there. So you get your GPT-4, your 4.0, your 3.5, whatever you're using, and you'll make your RAG, your calls against that, and it will use that model to, with your grounded data. Now, what they're starting to explore here is that shift of having specific models built. And I think they're talking in this case, especially around the Microsoft Phi models, the small language ones in the catalog, where they're kind of almost pre-trained with additional data from there. And you can see companies such as Bayer, who sit in that sort of pharma space, and they're talking about building on their agricultural intelligence. It says here, trained on thousands of real-world questions on Bayer crop protection labels. So they're kind of taking that base model and then adding their own information from it as well. Companies like, I'm going to try and say this, apologies if I get this wrong, but Kerence from there, bringing their models with that one for the in-car controls, adjusting air conditioning systems, Rockwell Automations for their food and beverage model. I'm sure I did see Fidelity mentioned on here. Maybe that was somewhere else. I saw that. But I think it's really interesting where it's moving towards as well as not just you get that model and you go and do the work, that it's starting to get that domain specific information come through as well and focus on that side of things as well. And taking this a little bit further, Chris O'Brien, who I believe is going to be over at Ignite, so do say hello if you see him over there, Zoe. He noticed this job role from Mustafa Suleyman, the Microsoft AI CEO now, formerly as of DeepMind and writer of, and I've suddenly forgotten the name of the book, something Wave, isn't it? Coming Wave on there, which is I've been gradually reading bit by bit. And he shared that they're on a mission to create the largest and most advanced multimodal data set in the world. This data set, spanning all modalities from across the web and beyond, will power the training of the world's most capable AI frontier model. Now, that to me, I don't know what you think, Zoe, but that seems to suggest that Microsoft are looking to build their own model now.
Yes, or at least, build their own model, or at least remove some of their reliance on other vendors, shall we say?
Yeah. So I know it certainly feels like there's been a shift away from just OpenAI with sort of deals with what they called Anthropic and Claude's the Claude models and others there, but I thought this was very interesting. This sort of seems, as you say, to them to looking to be independent for themselves as well, which feels a very different move.
Yeah, it's an interesting one for sure.
Now, I know many of people listening to this going, "Oh, we just need one of these two to drop something in TA." Zoe's sounding very cagey there, which makes me think she knows something I don't. So I know nothing about this either, but she's got me intrigued on that one.
Yeah, so there's nothing to be intrigued about. It's 7:30 in the morning, and I've only had one cup of crap hotel room coffee.
Oh, we'll go with that then on there. But
Yeah,
I think going back to this, I'm fascinated about this idea of people tailoring their own models. I know conversations with clients when Gen AI first came out, a lot of clients are trying to say we want to train our own models, we want to build it. It's like whoa, hold your horses. You don't need to do that. Actually, it turns out you do now. So it's kind of this is
yeah,
where
but
you can kind of take all that and build on it.
yeah, but I do feel like the last kind of eight. Well, I mean, it's 2 years, isn't it? Actually, 2 years this month since ChatGPT became a thing
Mm,
that people were actually aware of. I'm sure it was like the back end of November where it entered the collective consciousness. So if you think about what's happened since then and the journey that we've been on and the introduction of the Azure OpenAI service and all of the million co-pilots that we've had and now agents as well, I feel like this is really important and necessary learning and foundational work that needs to be done so that people can then
yeah,
understand where best to invest their resources and their focus and what they actually need in terms of that thing that's a little bit more bespoke. And what we're really starting to see now is that business and industry transformation or reinvention, and that will be a combination of the foundation the foundation models, the foundation co-pilots as well. So the out of the box stuff, agents and custom industry solutions that are trained on and fine tuned for specific industry knowledge and
yeah.
context.
And even it's that specific element within an industry. It talks about here that specifically that food and agriculture, specifically those in-car controls such as air conditioning. Oh, can you imagine if there's kind of intelligence to your air conditioning? It learns depending on who's in the car what their needs are depending on where they sit and things like that. That it's got all that information. It knows how often people are adjusting that, and it could build against that. Would be fantastic. So I think it will be fascinating to see. And again, I genuinely don't know, but what if this is being announced before Ignite? What are we going to see from Ignite that will back this even more? So certainly look out for some of those sessions around that.
Yeah, well, watch this space, I guess.
Absolutely. We did see a couple of other, not that one, smaller ones. Peter Optibeek noticed this one fantastic MVP from Belgium. And we've seen this a little bit, I'd say, over the last month or so. Certain features seem to drift away very quietly and then come back again, which is nice. And one of those was being able to interact with web page content. So having that kind of Bing or sorry, Edge extension where you can chat about a page and summarize it. That just seems to stop working for those using the enterprise data protection version of Copilot. I'm stuttering over names with Copilot. That's embarrassing. People are going to hammer me for that. But having that ability was always really useful to summarize a page, and thankfully that's come back again. So really, really happy to see that and have the controls over that one as well.
Yeah,
Which
I
is
do
nice.
think we've seen a couple of things kind of drop off and come back in an enterprise perspective as well. So for anyone who's listening pre-Ignite, I would just say actually, there's a big conference coming this week. There'll be lots of announcements. Some of those announcements will be things that are switched to GA this week. So usually that week or two before a big conference, we do see instability, shall we say?
Yeah. Do you know we haven't even had a sweepstake on how many renames that we're going to see
Yeah.
this week? I hadn't
How
thought
many
like
renames?
that.
How many times will they use Copilot or Agent in the keynote?
I I think there's going to be less Copilot and more agents. I think that'll be the interesting bit. So, but worth looking out for. Yes. Anyway, getting distracted there and keeping an eye on the time. Oh, it wasn't that one. An interesting article about AI jobs that I will put into the show notes, and I've lost the other link I wanted to show, which was around multi-tenant organizations. So for me as a consultant, one of the most frustrating things, I'm lucky enough to have a Copilot license in my personal account, my MVP accounts that I get from there. I've got one through Avanade. But the second I work with anyone else, I haven't got it. And we actually work in a multi-tenant org between Avanade and Accenture. If I'm there in the Accenture domain and someone's running the meeting there, I have no Copilot, and it's really irritating. But now, for those organizations who are multi-tenant, as in they have their Entra ID domain linked, there will be that capability for B2B members, so business to business, to be able to set it up and effectively be able to use your Copilot across there. So maybe you work for an organization that has different brands and you have different tenants as part of that, or maybe you've been working through an acquisition or a merger. Soon, what's it, begin rolling out mid-December and expect to complete by late. Seems a very optimistic time of year to be rolling things out, but let's move on from that very quickly. There will be the capability to set up that multi-tenant org with B2B and then make use of that. Now, I'm really looking forward to this. I know, Zoe, you and I have plenty of meetings between Avanade and Accenture, so to be able to use Copilot in those across them would be really, really useful.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. It's so frustrating, like you say, when you have it and you've built the habits to remember to use it and then you can't use it.
Yeah. So I think it's good. Now, one thing I want to be clear on this doesn't mean that if I join, let's say our good friend Sarah Fenner, she organizes a meeting, we join that. There is no B2B between our organizations, and therefore you wouldn't be able to use Copilot in that meeting, only the originating org. So this doesn't mean anytime you're on a call connected with anyone else, you will get it. Only if you've set up that particular relationship between the two organizations. Although that was probably a bad example because I have set up my own tenant to connect with Sarah's for doing shared channels. So if you happen to have set up shared channels, I think you're probably in a good place. But otherwise, no, you're not going to get that magic from there at all. Almost final article I want to talk about. And this one's a few weeks old, but because Scottish Summit and, well, life, we've been a bit slow getting this article out, getting this episode out. But this was something from Bobby Kishaw that I know Zoe and I saw at the MVP Summit. And there's times you listen to someone speaking, it's like, I love what he's saying. I love the way he's saying things. I love the way he's approaching this. So really enjoyed hearing from him. He's the corporate vice president of Office AI at Microsoft, and he was just reflecting on what a journey it's been in the year. And I think it's fair to say for both of us, so it's been quite a journey over the last year from this one as well. And he was kind of picking up some of the things, and I liked it that he's picked up. He's got a slight bias in this in terms of his office side. So he's saying that Word, Excel, and PowerPoint are more relevant than ever. I think it's fair to say some people might find that as quite a depressing view, but I think it is fair to say it's kind of brought them back to front and center, and also that file formats are sticking around as well. So it's interesting to see though that container as well remaining there. I think it talks about the importance of enterprise data on that, and that kind of comes back to what you were talking about earlier with the governance side of things. And this is one I particularly loved on here, that kind of evolution of how we search. And it occurred to me the other day that I now naturally, if I know where I want something, I'll often use search in Office 365 to find it because I know what I'm looking for. If I don't, I will go to Copilot. So the quick, simple things, I'll use the search bar. Other than that, Copilot's become more and more the place I go to because I can give it a lot more descriptions and things on there, and I think many people we've spoken to see the same thing as well. So there's some nice there. That natural language is the place to become the system to system interface on there. I think that's intriguing. I think we'll see that even more with agents. The resurgence of voice as well. I'm guessing Bobby isn't someone that goes into the office too much because that would drive people crazy. But I think we're seeing that build out. He talks a lot about agents within there as well. And then this statement I particularly like as well, that work evolves to more assembling and directing, that those kind of day-to-day tasks, we can move away from there. I've spent quite a lot of this morning setting up an ADO environment and rejigging all the user stories that I had in place and moving them to a slightly different one. Oh, if I could just talk to an agent and say, I want to move these from this to this in natural language and have it done, my life would be so much better. And I think that is where we're seeing that time to kind of decide on that structure, agree how we're going to use it. Yes, that will stick around. The time to actually action those, that will drop off as well. So really, really good article and summary of the last year.
And really well timed as well, I think, just at this, when we're on this cusp of all of the announcements and things that we expect this week in Chicago.
Yeah, absolutely. Bringing that. And kind of related to that, and something that I partially disagree with him. I was going to skip this, but I mentioned earlier we talk about it, so I'm going to bring it up now. But Dan Colby, who works over at Advania, was posting on the Gartner hype cycle that's just been released, the hype cycle for generative AI. And he was commenting, probably those watching can't quite see this, but the Gen AI enabled virtual assistants are rapidly heading down towards that trough of disillusionment, i.e., they've had their peak, they've had that excitement, they're now plummeting down. Now, to my view, and he kind of countered this and said, no, they're really really important, and it's just about training and user adoption that will bring them there. And I kind of get his point, but I certainly feel that now we're getting the most negativity from those that we've had for a while, that people are starting to be established with them and kind of going, yeah, I had my expectations of this. It isn't quite meeting that. But I think we're getting close to kind of just doing a shallow dip on that trough before they become more that plateau of productivity on there. I think we'll see that happen fairly quickly, that transition. And as he said, how do you manage this? Adoption, kind of going and chatting to people is key from that. So it's kind of interesting seeing that hype cycle and some of the items coming through. And I hope that we can shift right, as the cheesy phrase goes, and start to see it becoming more productive as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just it's a natural part of the hype cycle, and for something that for something that has been as hyped as generative AI and co-pilots and agents have been, then there is definitely a realignment needed in terms of, what is the technology actually capable of today? What are the things that we need to do as users, as organizations, as teams to be able to make the most of it? And the hype kind of needs to tail off a little bit, and then all of these things need to meet in the middle, and that's where we get to the true widespread adoption and the plateau of productivity, as they call it. So I think that journey's probably still got another couple of years to run, but you're right, there's a huge amount, not a huge amount, there's a lot more negativity that we're seeing in the press at the
Yeah.
moment. And for some of it, I do think this is where maybe the wrong buyer inside an organization has bought Copilot or invested in a Gen AI virtual assistant, something that they've built, either because they didn't have a plan, they just wanted it, they just thought, like, we need this thing, we need to be first movers, everybody else is doing it, so let's get it. Or because the board told them to do, because they were chatting to the CEO was chatting to their CEO mate on the golf course and felt like they were missing out. So
And
some of the
it would change our life. That's all we need to do. And the reality is different, isn't it?
Yeah, so some of the negativity I see in the press are organisations where we know they've not necessarily had a plan or approached it in the right way. So I do think there's organisations need to actually understand what they're trying to achieve with this as well, which is something I know we've both talked about before, where you need to actually understand the objectives for Gen AI in the organisation and how Copilot feeds into that, and then you can actually drive that behaviour that you want and measure against that behaviour. But if you just don't have a plan and you just throw it out and see what sticks, then it's never going to meet your expectations.
Completely. Yeah. So I've got my notes. Where will we be this time next year? I think maybe that's something we can carry over to the next show. But I think, based on your last comments, we will have some people using and really engaged with Copilot, whichever ones it is, and generative AI in the workplace, who are getting huge advantages. And those who've just tried to kind of shortcut it, sitting there going, oh, we spent all this time and money, nothing's working within there, because they haven't looked at it the right way. They've gone through different expectations. But I think those who engage properly, those who've looked at the content from Microsoft, from partners, will be starting to zip ahead. And yeah, it's fair to say we've got a slight bias to like Copilot, but I was catching up with a friend I hadn't seen for about 15 years at the weekend, and he was asking me, so is Copilot really worth it? And I was like, yeah, I actually think it is, and I've got no reason to give you the BS from there. But he was won over and wants his license now.
Brilliant. It's always nice to hear that people are convinced. So as we've mentioned a couple of times, I am in Chicago for Ignite this week. So if you're listening to this on your way to the conference, please do come and find me. I've got Copilot Connection stickers and pin badges, and I'll also be armed with my camera and microphones that actually will work when they're not connected into my laptop.
Yeah.
So I'd love to just get 5-10 minutes with some of you and understand from you what you're excited about, what your take is on some of the news and announcements that are being shared.
Yeah. And I, meanwhile, will be sat at home very jealously watching on the internet.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, Kevin, you'll probably be able to consume more of the content than me. You'll have a better idea of what's actually going on.
Possibly on that side. But if you do want to hear more about what's happening with Copilot, and you want to be the first to hear when we drop that Ignite episode, then please subscribe to us. Follow us on LinkedIn, X, Blue Sky. Subscribe on YouTube, on your favorite podcast. Tell your colleagues, tell your clients, tell your friends that you haven't seen for 15 years that they should give this a listen. I did ask him to listen to it. We'll find out if he did or not on there. But everyone is being intrigued by Copilot, so keep an eye out and follow the Copilot Connection.
And also, don't forget to register to join the Fireside Chat next week, which will take place live as well. But all that's left to say is thanks very much for listening, and we look forward to talking more soon.
Thanks a lot. Bye bye.